In our leadoff spot tonight, let's bring in our friends Chuck Feinberg and Caroline McCallum from the New Jersey Clean Cities Coalition. And they'll be talking about all of the heavy duty vehicles running through New Jersey and the region. Hi, Chuck and Caroline.
Hi, Catherine. Thank you for the introduction, and thanks everybody for joining us tonight, and thanks Sean and your team for inviting us. Um, if Caroline, if you can share the presentation, and here it comes. Yeah, so a couple of things. I wanted the opportunity, and I very much appreciate the opportunity to introduce our organization to you if you're not familiar with it. And there are some specific projects that we have ongoing right now that we'd love to get your input on. And we'll get into that as we go along here. There will be a survey that we will ask you to fill out. It's a very short survey, but your input is extremely important. So what is the New Jersey Clean Cities Coalition, and what is the Clean Cities Coalition Network? So I'll start with the network. We are part of a U.S. Department of Energy program that is run out of the Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy Office of the Department of Energy, and specifically it's in the Vehicle Technologies Office. And the program is called Clean Cities and Communities. It's been around for a little over 30 years right now. And New Jersey has participated in this program for 25 of those years. Unlike many federal programs, federal programs are usually top down, where they tell you what to do and the locals have to do it. This program is very innovative in that it provides seed funding to locally based coalitions, so that those coalitions can form public-private partnerships and work on initiatives that work in those communities. And specifically, we're all about reduction of petroleum in the transportation sector. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. But the coalitions serve several purposes. We bring local stakeholders together. We help strengthen and develop the markets for alternative fuels, for petroleum reduction activities. We bring all aspects of the market together so that projects can be implemented and deployed efficiently and equitably and collaboratively. So it brings the grassroots support, but at the same time, we have the backing of the Department of Energy. We have an incredible network of 85 coalitions that share information, share case studies, share lessons learned very regularly, and we all benefit from having that technical and networking support behind us. Next slide. So again, we are an independent nonprofit. And we go through a formal process that's reviewed by the Department of Energy every couple of years to get this designation as the Clean Cities Coalition. And again, we're dedicated to the establishment of public-private partnerships to reduce petroleum and transportation, and to equitably advance alternative fuels and advanced vehicle technologies. And we do that in a number of ways. Next slide. We are also supported and sponsored, and membership fees paid by a broad spectrum of interests across the state of New Jersey, public and private entities, as you see some of them shown here. Next. But our portfolio consists of a number of different specific areas. First of all, we work with all sorts of vehicles, light, medium, and heavy-duty vehicles. We do a lot of work with alternative and renewable fuels. You might know that 2009, 2010, we worked on the first compressed natural gas fueling stations and vehicles in New Jersey. At the time, those were the cleanest vehicles available. We transitioned over 300 heavy-duty vehicles, mostly garbage trucks, and the Atlantic City jitney fleet, to compressed natural gas and off of gasoline and diesel. And now most of those fleets, if not all of them, are using renewable natural gas, which is chemically equivalent to fossil gas, but it is a renewable fuel. So we work with a variety of fuels. Again, not every there's no one solution that is going to work in every case. So we are open to everything that reduces petroleum. And it's not just about fuels, it's also about idle reduction and trip elimination programs that we work with. And we're happy to support local organizations in publicizing and technical support to such initiatives. And we're also working on new mobility choices and emerging technologies, autonomous vehicles, vehicle-to-vehicle communications that will make everything safer and hopefully more efficient from energy and other standpoints. Next slide. So again, the Clean Cities and Communities program is kind of at the center of the Vehicle Technology Office's technology integration program. So we are actually the only deployment-based program at the Vehicle Technologies Office. Just about all of the other programs there are R&D related, such as vehicle lightweighting and on other engine technologies and the super truck program. But we're all about getting vehicles on the road, getting new technologies on the road, and making it happen as quickly as we can. So again, we have all sorts of information and tools available to us through the Department of Energy. We have a technical response service that is kind of like a tiger team. If there is particular technology issues, we can call upon them and they can have the experts help us out. We do a lot of training and outreach, meetings such as this and many others that we do across the state on a regular basis. And of course, everybody loves us when there are grant opportunities available that we can help make people aware of and lead efforts as appropriate and help support those efforts when the money is available. Next slide. One of the measures of success that we have both for our coalition when DOE reviews us and as Congress reviews the program of the DOE is the amount of petroleum displacement. So last year, our stakeholders were credited with about last year it was about 14.5 million. This year, our goal is 17 million. And you see the breakdown of how we achieved those numbers, how our stakeholders achieved those numbers. And we had a good increase last year. We're still kind of recovering from COVID on our reporting. That's why it flattened out the last couple of years. We had a nice increase last year. We're looking for a nice increase this year. But you see of significance in the breakdown and the colors of this chart is I guess it would be maroon. That bar is widening, and that's electric vehicles. That's the effect of electric vehicles. So we don't have this shown in the presentation, but we're judged both on the gallons of gasoline gallon equivalents that are displaced by alternative fuels and these other technologies, but we also have a greenhouse gas reduction target. And we have significantly increased our greenhouse gas reduction because of this increase in electric vehicles. And I would expect that the 2024 numbers at the end of the year are going to be significantly improved over this. Next slide. So a couple of the programs real quick. We have a current program now. It's funded by the Department of Energy called Empower, which is one of the better acronyms for any federal program I've ever heard of. But it's the Equitable Mobility Powering Opportunities for Workplace Electrification Readiness. It's a mouthful. Empower is a lot easier to say. But this is all about workplace charging. So if you are an employer or you as an employee would like to see charging stations installed at your workplace for employee use, please look this up, sign this pledge. It's on our website, and we can provide the equivalent of a couple of $1,000s worth of free consulting advice. So that consulting could be technical issues, it could be helping with site assessments, it could be helping to hook you up with the right utility people, or it could be things like helping to develop and implement employee use policies, human resource policies that apply to the charging stations. So I encourage you to look into this program. Excuse me, we can put a link in the chat also to it. Next slide. Drive Electric USA, and specifically Drive Electric New Jersey, is a new program that we're just getting underway. This is essentially there's a lot to this that you're going to hear a lot more about, but it's kind of a way to ease consumers, the ability of consumers to get information about electric vehicle programs. As most people on this meeting probably know, that there's a lot of different state agencies doing activities with electric vehicles, that the utilities are doing a bunch of different things. A lot of municipalities with Sustainable Jersey and other programs are doing a lot of different things. There's a lot of other organizations out there that are doing things. Our goal for this is to simplify that and to bring it all together under a single umbrella, or at least to put a website together where that information can easily be found. Excuse me. One more new program is Caroline, who will be speaking in a second, especially since my voice is going out. She just participated in a Train the Trainer program for electric school buses. And this was put on by the World Resources Institute that you've probably heard of. They are one of the leading organizations working on the deployment of electric school buses. And we'll be reaching out if anybody is listening and working with a school district right now. We'd love to hear about it if you have an interest in electric school buses. As you can see, our goal is to work with at least 5 school districts to help them with a deep dive on electric school buses. Next. And this is actually the program we wanted to talk about tonight. This is the East Coast Zero Emission Vehicle Commercial Corridor. And it's important to note that this is for commercial vehicles, medium and heavy duty vehicles that, there are very few on the road right now, but they are coming. They will be coming in greater numbers. And this is a planning program. There's actually 2 programs, one from New Jersey North and one from New Jersey South, along the I-95 corridor and adjoining roads. And the goal is to identify locations that would be appropriate for commercial vehicle charging. As you can imagine, these heavy duty, medium and heavy duty trucks are going to require a lot of power, and the resources that are necessary to develop this charging infrastructure for those types of vehicles is tremendously complicated. So among other things, we are looking for your input today on this survey that Caroline's going to talk about, that would help develop the criteria, the scoring criteria for prioritizing sites. So that's what we're looking for. And I think with that is my last slide, and I'll turn it over to Caroline to talk more about this particular program.
Thanks so much, Chuck. I appreciate it. And shout out to Sean and the Tri-County Sustainability team, for Catherine, for having us here today. Really appreciate everybody's time. Just want to start off by, again, reiterating that, the goal of what we're working on tonight is to share information about electric vehicle charging benefits, and then to share a link for a brief survey. That link is just in the upper left-hand corner, and it's maybe a minute or two to get your input on this important initiative. Is really the breakpoint of why we're here tonight. So I'm hopeful that as we share more information, you'll take a moment and fill out the survey as I share more information on this project. So let's jump in. Transportation is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions in the United States, contributing over a quarter of all emissions in 2023. In New Jersey, that number is even higher, around 38%. ICE vehicles emit harmful pollutants that impact the health of residents living near highways and cause a whole host of health problems. Medium and heavy-duty trucks account for just 5% of the miles traveled, but contribute 20% of transportation emissions. This highlights the urgent need for clean transportation solutions. The Northeast has set ambitious goals for freight decarbonization and electrification. 8 of the 9 states in the region have signed the Advanced Clean Trucks MOU, aiming for 30% of new truck sales to be zero-emission vehicles by 2030. The region's geography, population density, and shipping infrastructure make it well-suited for widespread conversion to electric vehicles. Recent federal policies have significantly reduced the total cost of ownership for electric vehicles, making them more economically viable for fleet operations. Achieving these goals will not only help us meet our climate targets, but also improve public health and create economic opportunities. Reducing transportation emissions is critical for achieving our national climate goals. To meet these goals, we need to develop a robust charging infrastructure for electric vehicles. The Northeast Freight Corridor Charging Plan is a key part of this initiative, aiming to create environmental and economic opportunities and improvements across the region. The groundwork for the plan that we're working on now began with this study, which came out in 2022 and is linked on our website. njcleancities.org. In March, the Biden-Harris administration released the National Zero-Emission Freight Corridor Infrastructure Strategy, committing to 100% zero-emission and heavy-duty vehicle sales by 2040. Our plan is a 2-year study funded by the Department of Energy Vehicle Technology Office, and the goal is to develop a regional plan for public charging infrastructure across the 9 states in the Northeast. This plan will forecast electric charging demand at traffic stops along major freight corridors, using telematic data to identify critical locations and develop cost-effective solutions. This study will cover nearly 3,000 miles of freight corridors in the Northeast, examining 130 plus sites of routes originating from the Port of New York and New Jersey. The goal is to identify 30 to 40 priority sites for development, enabling truck operators to transition to zero-emission vehicles with confidence that charging infrastructure will be available. Here is the project team led by National Grid, and it includes NREL, RMI, NESCOM, and Beam Reach. Clean Communities of Central New York, based out of Syracuse, is leading the environmental justice effort in collaboration with other Clean Cities coalitions, including the New Jersey Clean Cities Coalition. The study, as I said, will examine 130 potential sites utilizing telematics data to analyze current freight traffic patterns. This data helps to forecast electric load requirements and prioritize sites for infrastructure development. Here's a closer look at the potential sites in New Jersey, with several key sites identified along major interstates. Each site will be scored on 4 criteria: environmental justice, state planning priorities, load forecast for the site, and proximity to infrastructure. This balanced approach ensures that the project team prioritizes sites that offer the greatest benefit and are cost-effective to develop. Prioritizing environmental justice is critical. Communities most affected by climate change, pollution, and environmental hazards should benefit from the development of EV infrastructure. We're seeking input on how to best score environmental justice impacts. In previous studies, we've used a simple criterion: whether a site was a disadvantaged community. Now, with federal support, we can develop more nuanced assessments. We invite you to share your perspective and help us refine this approach. We welcome your questions and insights on additional considerations for scoring these sites. Are there specific concerns that you have? What factors should we consider to ensure a fair and effective site selection? We need feedback from individuals and community groups to identify how to prioritize site selection from an environmental perspective by July 31st. That's tomorrow. Your input will help us choose the most impactful sites and improve in community engagement throughout this process. More information on this project can be found on our website, njcleancities.org, and I'll put that in the chat again under the projects tab. And just for one last time, in case you were looking for it, here's the link to the survey. Let's work together and ensure that there's a cleaner solutions for all. We look forward to hearing from you and would like to open the floor for any questions that you might have.
I think I saw a couple of questions in the chat. Sean, I just saw your one question about zero emission. For the purposes of this particular siting study, we're only talking about battery electric. But for the bigger picture, the zero emission corridor is going to include consideration of hydrogen fueling stations as well. I didn't see all the questions. There might have been others in the chat that I missed. So if anybody does have a question, I think we still have some time left. Please feel free to chime in. I see Sean's hand up. Sean, it's your show. You don't have to raise your hand.
Yeah, sure I do. So check real quick. I'm sorry, I have an echo with my mic. Real quick. So I know the Port of Newark project was announced a couple of months ago. Is there traffic is a big part of this, right? Obviously, where's the biggest traffic? But one of the things that we think of, South Jersey always gets the short end of the stick on everything. And I'm just wondering, is it a bit of a chicken and egg thing where, if we don't build the heavy duty electric charging structure, infrastructure here, that we can't grow? We can't get more business opportunity. Everything tends to, so Newark is getting the lion's share as always,
Well, I mean, a couple of things from the perspective of this project. The port of Newark and Elizabeth, those port areas, there's not a whole lot of space available to put commercial charging depots in. So I think there may be some. But I think a more likely solution is to look at the existing truck stops along the Turnpike and I-95 and other roads throughout New Jersey, to look at existing truck stops and potentially put in charging infrastructure there. But also, you got all these warehouses and distribution centers up and down New Jersey now, throughout the whole state. It may make sense to put, charging depots in those areas. And this is where we need the input of the communities and the local organizations and individuals to express their opinions on that, so that we can make sure they get considered in the overall site prioritization. And keep in mind, this is a planning study. That there's not going to be any stations under this program, as a result of this program, I should say. There's certainly not going to be anything built under this program. But as a result of this program, there's going to be a bunch of priority sites that are identified. How those get built out and by whom is still an open question. So the private sector, in many cases will be stepping up to actually pick the low-hanging fruit and the best sites. Maybe the utilities will, maybe the states will. But actually getting anything built is a ways off on this. I see a question from Henry. Your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. With the feasibility study, in that, or at least has consideration been taken into aligning potential sites with how the state is looking to expand the turnpike in South Jersey and add additional exits?
I have not heard that one specifically, but that is something that should be looked at. Again, we want to make sure our role in this particular project is to try to get the input of the environmental justice and the local community groups into this. The last thing that I would want to see under this program is additional local traffic, even if it is a clean vehicle, electric truck or whatever, I don't want to see additional traffic in an area that does not currently have truck traffic, for example. So, so all of those, please fill out the survey and express that opinion and bring that concept into it so it can be considered, because I had not heard that before.
Yeah, I'm kind of echoing with the prior gentleman around South Jersey legacy wise. I mean, not just from a sustainability standpoint, but in other funding initiatives, anywhere from education, infrastructure, economic development. South Jersey, it has to do with being densely populated. North Jersey is just more densely populated. So I know that there's been conversations with the smaller municipalities around, and I said expanding, more so widening the turnpike and looking to have some additional exits in the South Jersey area. So I think it's an interesting thought around setting up those stations at some of the new distribution centers that have popped up here in South Jersey. There's several, particularly in some of the smaller communities, and also looking at the alignment with that, because those trucks will be looking to leverage those other exits as a means of not having to backtrack to get to those distribution centers and setting up those depots there. So, just thinking about, and there could be, and I bring this up more so as an opportunity in aligning that with something at event. I don't know when it's happening, but that program is supposed that you're talking about 2030. It could be an opportunity to create a focus around South Jersey with that program to offer something that could be attractive for those small communities and help support them as we think about the air quality specifically. I'm speaking for Camden County. I know our air quality is crap based on last grades, but there could be an opportunity there. So yeah, I'll make sure the survey gets filled out and hopefully it adds some value.
Yeah, no, that'll be great. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've
got a question.
Yep.
Question from Sharonda, and then there's also a question in the chat from Vicky. So,
hi, as you're talking about warehouses and siting and creating, more exits on the turnpike, which they're going to charge $3 trillion for. What to me should happen is that those companies such as Amazon and these other warehouses, they should be bearing the burden of stationing these charging hubs, because Amazon is shipping all this stuff in. So we should be putting the charging stations on Amazon property. And, they shouldn't be able to say anything else because they have created such a monopoly of products. And I think that, I'm sorry, someone's playing loud music. And I think that would solve the problems. They have space. It could be like whatever 5-lane drive-through for the trucks. When they drop off, they can refuel. When they pick up, they can refuel, because they're always in these high traffic areas off the turnpike, all that. And also, and I name Amazon, but of course, across the turnpike, there are lots of other warehouse locations that should bear that burden. So let's look into that instead of putting more stuff into overburdened EJ communities as the dumping grounds.
Appreciate that input. And please put that in the survey.
Will do. Thank you.
There was another question, Caroline.
yeah, there was a question from Vicky. What she said was, does it make sense to locate charging stations where the vehicles are, ports, concentrations of warehouses, etc.?
Well, so, the way I think this is going to play out, and this is going to play out over a long period of time, we're looking at corridors. We're looking at the ability of commercial vehicles, medium and heavy duty vehicles to go along the highway from, wherever they're going. So I think it's going to play out where, there's going to be regional development, from the port to the distribution center. The first generation of electric trucks is going to be able to do the short distances from the ports, wherever they are, to the distribution centers. And then maybe, there'll be smaller vehicles that actually make the deliveries, the local deliveries. But for interstate trucking, they're not going to distribution centers, or they may be going from one state to another state. So for those types of deliveries, those types of runs of these trucks, there needs to be a public charging or a charging infrastructure, whether it's public or private or whatever. So it's going to develop. It's going to take many years for that to develop. And again, our goal is to make sure that the voice of the local communities is heard as these initial planning programs are underway, and as they're going down the road and getting further developed. So I don't want to foreclose any avenues right now. I mean, the common goal for all of us is to get electrified vehicles on the road as fast as possible. And some of these are going to be harder to do than others. And interstate trucking is going to be one of the harder ones, that's for sure. John?
Hey, Jack. Thanks again. Can you speak to, I don't want to put you on the spot with this one, but just we have a diverse audience here. Can you speak a little bit to I wouldn't want a gas station in my backyard, right? But that's because of the historic, things like leaks and benzene and all that. But a charging station, doesn't have the same type of, just because this is an environmental justice conversation, and we're talking about red line communities, and so am I wrong to say it's not the same problem to have, a electric vehicle charging in your neighborhood as it would be to say, have, a turnpike's worth of, gasoline, stations?
Yeah, when my personal opinion is it is absolutely not the same problem, but it could still be a problem if it's not done correctly. I mentioned before, the last thing I want to see is increased truck traffic in a neighborhood that does not currently have truck traffic. So siting of these facilities needs to take that into consideration. Existing truck stops, substituting electric trucks for diesel trucks would be a tremendous improvement. And, it would not be making traffic any worse, but it would be solving a number of different issues. Plus, it opens up a new industry for potential workforce development for service technicians, and driver satisfaction of the truck drivers is expected to be tremendously improved because they're not going to come home smelling like diesel mechanics every day. No hard feelings against any diesel mechanics that might be on the call, but so I think it does open up some opportunities, but again, with any of this, I think it was you who had made the comment in the chat. We want to make sure that we don't repeat past mistakes to the extent that they can be avoided, and we want to make sure with surveys like this and other community engagement that we're doing, that we want to make sure that the concerns of the communities are heard and that they're factored into the planning process.
That's awesome.
So again, thanks for the opportunity to have us on tonight, and I think our time is up. And
just real quick, check before you sign off. Could I just ask Caroline, can you bring that slide up again? Or if you have the link to the survey, please post it in the chat. And while you're doing that, there was a question from Kevin Barfield.
Kevin.
Yes. Hi, Kevin Barfield, Camden, New Jersey. Camden for Clean Air. basically, okay, my question is, who has the final say when it comes to where these stations are going to be placed?
So again, this is a planning program where high priority locations are going to be identified. Um, I think it's yet to be seen as to who is going to actually develop these particular stations, whether that's going to be the government or the private sector or some combination. But you know, all of the factors that Caroline mentioned in the presentation have to be considered and prioritized, and that's the outcome of this particular program. How these get built and by whom and how fast is going to be a function of government incentives and the market. So you know, I really can't answer that question any better than that at this point.
Okay, and then my other follow-up questions is, again, has there been any kind of study in reference to the electric pollution? Because I think by us going into everything electric, now we're increasing our electromagnetic fields constantly going through communities. And again, I'm always concerned that, you know, as was mentioned earlier, that the already overburdened communities will have these particular stations along closest to their communities. Besides the fact that I'm also concerned that when we always try to promote the fact that this is bringing jobs, that Black and brown people are never part of being a part of these major multi-million-dollar, billion-dollar projects. You know, the unions are constantly, and in these work environments, are constantly pushing minorities out of being able to make these livable wages. And again, you know, I think that there has to be some fair representation when it comes to these particular, you know, when things do move forward. I would be curious to know what the timeline is when they also, you know, are projecting to, you know, implement these stations, because we also know that our state and our national grid is not already in a position to be able to handle the amount of, I would think, additional you know, electrical electricity going through you know, our regions.
Well, there's no question that this is going to be a transformative change, and that you know we have over 100 years of diesel infrastructure and diesel pollution and diesel, you know, ingrained into our system, and you know it's going to take time for us to change that to cleaner fuels and you know, lower emission or even zero emission fuels and transportation. You know, it's not easy, and there's no perfect solution, and all energy, you know, right now is has some issues to it. But you know, right now it seems that this is clearly the lesser of the current evils. And we need to make that transition, and we got to start somewhere.
And finally, I would say that, you know, I agree that there needs to be some form of hybrid when we talk about, you know, energy and how we utilize, you know, the new along with the old, because we know we can't totally get rid of that. But, you know, again, I'm just always concerned that, you know, when we have these meetings and just asking for community input, that it's just a formality. And then when it's all said and done, whatever the I guess issues of concern of the community and the people who are most affected always ignore, and then it's wind up dumped right into the locations that are already overburdened.
Yeah,
Because
no,
that's
I
just
hear
like-
you, and I can tell you that our organization is fully committed to this, and you know, we are not doing this as a formality. We're doing this because we believe in it. You know, what happens to that information after we pass it on is beyond my pay grade, so I couldn't tell you, but
Okay.
you know, I could tell you we're committed to doing what we can, and in the projects that we work with, and the you know, the grant money, the grant projects that we have, all the projects are aligned in that direction.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm going to definitely fill out and like I said, include my concerns within the survey, but I just had to put that on the record. Because, you know,
Okay.
again, I see that it always takes place where the communities and the politics, because of political will and the capital investment knows who want this done. You know, we are always like the last resort. So that's to be, you know, this conversation is to be continued. So thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Catherine, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Chuck, and thank you, Caroline, for all